And hello folks, hello, welcome back into this new video, which is actually the real brand new video, the only one brand new video in this last months, because actually I'm just uploading, old stuff on this Doom related channel, but never mind about that. Now we are kind of back. We are kind of back with this new brand tutorial. Yeah, this is finally a real tutorial, kind of. So, today I would like to show you how to, let's just say, improve your creation, improve your coding about monsters, how to make interesting some monsters instead of just going with the usual Doom functions for attacks and moving and stuff like that. So, let's start with something pretty easily, because the whole point about making this video was about a tutorial request. Yeah, let's say that maybe it was the guy was sarcastic under my video, but who cares? I just going through with it. I'm always happy when I see some comments under my video requesting from some stuff, so I will go through it. And yeah. Okay, yeah, of course I was talking about the request, which was under the video about my Flash Wizard, my version of the Flash Wizard, where I was showing the guy melting stuff, not really melting stuff, well, fucking up with the player view and stuff like that. So I'm trying to recreate that with this new monster. I just downloaded the Banshee from the Realm 667, because actually I was after something like the Banshee, like I really wanted some sort of innocent girl-looking ghost that transforms or do some crazy stuff. Unfortunately, this wasn't what I was expecting, because this thing is a bit not well, the best looking monster I found onto Realm 667. This is basically just a mannequin of a Hermione Granger with no face and not even a real animation. Actually, that there's literally no animation about hair. So I was a bit disappointed, to say the least. But at least there's still something. And let's start with the first thing I did. This was to convert the decorate to a ZSCRIPT. I'm not here to tell you how to do that, even because it's one of the easiest thing to do. Basically, instead of having just an actor defined called Banshee, blah blah, you need to add some more stuff to make it a bit more, valuable for the ZSCRIPT. So we started with a class, which is the Banshee, which will inherit from the actor base class from, in this case, GZ Doom. And we have some default stuff, which where you have all of the properties of the monster. In this case, you have the health, which is a fucking lot. Jesus Christ. The radius, blah blah blah, all the freaking stuff. Flags, sounds, etc, etc. Then we have the state stuff, where I already cut off a lot of bullshit, because I am not here to modify actually the real Banshee with all of those weird missile stuff, etc. I don't care about that. I'm just here to show a quick way to mess up with the player view, to make something more original than a fire shooting mannequin. So, well, it feels like I'm shitting on the Banshee, of the creator of the Banshee, but it's not really that. It's that now in 2025 we are here to we have access to a lot of more cool stuff to do with the code, and so I'm here to show you how to do that. So let's go into the actual thing here. We will start with the actual attack of this thing, because this is the real cake, right? This is the ice of the cake. So, missile state, we won't have a melee state, because we don't really care about the melee state. We don't have a real animation, so I won't even bother making a melee state. Actually, we could do some quick stuff, but for now, let's just go with this. You know what? I'm gonna do some melee attack, just because I can, you know? So quick save. We are going with the ZSCRIPT text language here to simplify stuff, you know? Let me just check for an instant. You know what? I'm going to use, yeah, these frames over here, just sort of like making her like a paladin of D&D with the fire hands or something like that, you know. So A, B, C. Okay. Oh, not here. This is just for help when I get stuck with the code, so I can just look at it. Anyhow, let's go straight away with bands. A, B, C. Just to go like 4 with A, face, target. If you're working with ZSCRIPT, you'll notice that some of the functions are not highlighted. This is just because you're missing parentheses, you know, because ZSCRIPT has all of this fancy stuff. So if you want to have hints, you need to add the parentheses and stuff, so you can have all of these funny little hints that you will definitely make use of. Anyhow, we'll face the target, and in the end we'll attack the player. And so in my blah blah blah, for quick, I don't really care. Let's go with a custom melee attack, which is a custom melee attack for monsters. So we're going with damage. You can have any damage you want, and since I don't want to use the random crap that Doom usually pull out with the, you know, if you use the damage property in the default block, we are going with for a random attack in here. Because how it works with the damage property in here is that basically Doom just multiply that by a random chance from 1 to 8. So if you have, for example, a monster with a damage here, damage about 8, this 8 will be multiplied by a random number from 1 to 8, which can be a lot. This is why, for example, the Revenant is such a pain in the ass in the original game. But now I'm talking actually the damage usually work for the missiles, not really for the melee attack, because you can define the melee attack damage in functions like this one. But don't bother my blabbering, etc. So random, we're going for something a bit heavy. I mean, I like to go like having 3 possibility here and then multiply by something like 5, for example. So there's a possibility to deal from 20 to 30 points of damage with this melee attack. Multiples of 5. Do I have a melee sound for this one? Let's check this out. So we have the active. Is this some sort of sex mode? Okay. This is super weird. This is the death sound. Yes. Yeah, definitely a death sound. Yeah, 100%. Oh Jesus fucking Christ. I'm sorry. Okay, it feels like some sort of drunken Western Europe lady here, but no, there's no way. This is the C sound. This is the sight sound. I know that the Doom guy is quite handsome and has quite some physique, but Doom guy, please spank my butt. Okay, we don't really have an attack sound, so I guess I'll just use the bunch random blabbering here with the where is it? The rye here, the Banshee raise. I will use the Banshee raise. Don't really care. So custom melee attack. We will do something like this. Call for the attack sound Banshee race. I don't know on the melee sound here. Here we go. Because if I remember correctly, I might be wrong about this, but if I remember correctly, the attack sound gets called every time the monster enters his missile or melee state. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe just called, for example, when you call attack functions, but I can't fucking remember. We will see if it gets called or not. Anyhow, we're going for the melee sound, and I will just use the fire sound of some sort. For example, the attack here. I can use one of these, for example. I can use one of these. Spawn, no. Actually, I don't really need this. This is for this weird stuff, because this monster that I downloaded from Real 667 just included some Lost Soul sprites and sounds. I don't know why. Don't really know why. I don't really care, but I don't want to use stuff because of copyright and shit, you know. Anyhow, I can use the attack number 1, for example, because apparently the attack number 2 is death. No, it's not that. It's probably the attack death, so the fire that she was shooting. So we'll just use these as my melee sound. We don't have a miss sound. Damage type, I can go with the damage type. For example, in my case, I can go with fire damage. Since fire damage is already defined into GZ Doom, and you can find the custom damage type that are already defined into the wiki. You just go to the ZDoom wiki, type damage types, and you will find all the already defined damage types. There are like fire, poison, ice, stuff like that. Bleed, don't really care about the bleed. So let's burn our player around. Let's ban for just to give some delay, and then go to the C state again. And here we go. Now, save. I won't bother about making sprites about fancy effects like particles and stuff. I'm just here to show how to tweak some kind of things in here, how to add simple attacks or weird ones, etc. Now, let's go to the fancy things. First of all, I don't need these. Let's go directly here. 1, it's a bit too low. Let's go with 2. And here we are going to call our custom functions, perhaps. So let's save and let's create our custom functions for our custom missile attack. So to create a custom function, it's pretty straightforward. Void, and we're going to call this a Banshee Psych. As simple as that. Because we are going to make a sort of a psychic attack of some sort. So, first of all, we can use some really cool stuff in here, because we already have some facilitations. So we have some, we have our free way here, because you know, when a monster enters its attack state, it means that he already has a target. And so we can use that to directly deal damage or do stuff to the target itself. That's how we're using stuff like the moving screen, like in my Flash Wizard stuff, etc. So, easy as that. First we need some, safe checks for targets and stuff. So if there is no target, we are going to, or if the target is dead, for example, if target dot health, so less equal than 0. Then we are going to set state label, and we are going back to an abort state, like it could be, for example, the C state. Here we go, save, here we go. And just to completely lock the function, we're going to return. It's a void function. It doesn't need to return anything. This just tells the function to stop. So the function will stop here. If there is no more target, so if, for example, the player just disappears, or for example, if the Banshee is targeting a monster and that monster disappears into the nothing because of something, then if she was attacking with this function here, she will just enter the C state after the function ends and end the function. That's simply that. It will also do the enter this little block here if the target is dead. So, as you can see, you can access any property you want from your target, so from your pointer. In this case, it's the target, but it can be any type of actor, pointer, or whatever, by just telling the target, adding this little dot here, and call the property. In my case, I could even do something odd, like or target dot speed, for example, is less than 20, and we'll see if this is working. You know, we can just see if the speed of the target, like for example, now the player doesn't really have a speed, so this won't really work. Well, we'll see how to make it work if the Banshee just will target monsters. Quick save, just in case, and you can see now, if I switch this stuff in here, you can see you have this highlighted, and you can use that in your code, in this case, a Banshee psych. Here we go, it's already here defined. Does nothing right now, but you can already get it. Now, another thing that might be helpful is a check site. Because, you know, if the target of the Banshee just get off the sight of the monster itself, I don't want the Banshee to continue to try to attack the player, or whoever is trying to attack. So, we are going to create a new bool called on site, which is equal to check site. You can find all of the functions that you want by going again into the ZDoom wiki, looking for ZSCRIPT functions and whatnot. You know, so the target is the target, of course, and don't worry about the fact that the target might not be existent or dead, because you're already checking for that. So, you know, if there is no target, the function will never enter this part of the code here, and so you're safe. And flags, we need flags. But since I don't remember the flags, we're going to directly check them from the wiki. Ah, my eyes. Okay, ZDoom wiki. Easiest way to do that. Then we go with check site. Here you go. Check site ZSCRIPT, which is here. Okay, now, one thing that I want, for example, you can have the Banshee to look through invisibility. So if the player is invisible, or the actor has the invisible flag, the attack will, the check will fail. But we can also use these other with these other flags to, for example, let the Banshee see through block shootable lines. For example, if you're using, mid textures in the middle of your map, etc., or if lines that are set to block everything. You know, are we just going to use the ignore water boundary? Because I want the Banshee to see through 3D water, for example. It could be useful. The Banshee to be able to attack even if the player is inside water. And of course, just to check this out, it returns true if the target is in line of sight. Clear and self-explanatory. This is our first check. So let's go like this. If there is no check sight, so if this is not true, then we're going to do the same exact thing here. So we're going to set state, return, blah blah. Simple as that. You can combine everything in here. You can combine these inside of this function here, but I prefer to have these separated just to have several checks. Maybe it's not the best efficient way to do that, but it's a lot clearer code-wise when you try to read the code, you know? Because, you know, that first you're checking for the target, then you're checking for if you can see the target, etc, etc. We can also check, for example, for the distance. Could be nice to check for a distance, so you can just or distance. In this case, I want to distance 3D, another function here from the target again. So distance 3D gets for arguments a pointer. In this case, it's again the distance 3D from the target. Distance 3D is just basically the length of the vector from the caller and the target in this case. If distance 3D, and it will return a double, so a float value, which is the actual distance, is or if it is greater, for example, than I don't know, we can use, for example, the max attack range, which is a property of a monster. We can add it here, max target range. I believe it's max target range. I hate this stuff because for some reason in Decorate you have these. As you can see, if the property exists, it will be highlighted by you know, cyan, green. What the fuck is this color? But for some reason in ZSCRIPT you don't have that. I only have for something, but not for all of them. And I don't really know why. This is really annoying sometimes. Because I don't really know if I write it correctly. Anyhow, max target range, we can go with the 1024 units. Telling the monster that he shouldn't be trying to attack its target if he's farther than this distance here. And so I want to use these even to abort the attack. So, oh, sorry. Here we go. So it's if greater than the max target range, then abort. You know, if the monster is already attacking, if the player is running away, just abort the thing. Simple and efficient. And another thing that you can add, let me think. I don't think I need anything else actually. So let's go into the actual attack. Like I said, we want something similar to the Flash Wizard there, trying to make this sort of psionic attack. Some sort of screen melting, screen moving, like some sort of I can tell nausea. Okay, nausea attack. So how we do that? Simple as that. We call the Quake function. Can I please? Quake function directly from the target. In this case, we are calling from Quake X because we have a lot of tweakery to do, and we have possibility to do some sort of modifications here. So, doing this means that the Quake will have the origin directly on the target, because we can just use, for example, the function like this, but it means that the origin will be the actor calling the function, so it will be the Banshee. So the player, if the player is really far away, even if it's not, for example, farther than 1024, we'll need to give the Quake a radius of at least 1024, otherwise the target won't be affected by it, which is stupid. I don't want that. Target dot. Here you go. So we started with intensity. This is now finally, Jesus Christ, a float value, or a double, whatever you want to call it, so a decimal value. So if I remember correctly, though, the maximum is still 9, and that's annoying. Anyhow, the first argument here is for the moving the camera on the x-axis, the camera or the target itself. It depends on what you are doing. If you are going for a real earthquake, then you can literally move the target or the things that are affected by the earthquake moving around the map, which is a lot of really annoying. I don't want that. Otherwise it will be really messy. Anyhow, these can be just for the camera, for example. So we are going for the maximum here. This is for the lateral movement. So we're going... Oh, you know what? We are going for something crazy, you know? We're going for something crazy just to have this really effective way to fuck up with the player. So we're going for maximum intensity for everything here. The duration. Now, we can let the quake for it to last 2 seconds. It takes ticks, so 70 ticks are 2 seconds, because 1 second is 35 ticks. Damage radius. I don't want the damage. I don't really care about the damage. So we'll be 0. Tremor radius. Can be whatever you want, since you're actually making the earthquake starting from the target itself. So I can go, for example, 1. Don't really care. We can add an SFX sound. So we can add the sound for the earthquake. I don't really care, so I can just go with the standard one, which is World Quake, which is fine by me. So World Quake. Flags. Now for the flags we need to look for them, because I don't really remember them. So we're going here, A Quake X, and here we go. We have a lot of flags to do here, to play around. First of all, I want this one, because this is the most important in this situation. QF relative. Here we go. Let's read what does this do. Adjust the X, Y, and Z intensities to quake along the camera views front and side respectively. Meaning that if the player is looking north, yet again the X will be in front and the Y will be lateral and the Z up and down. If I'm facing west, the same. Without this one, we will follow the map points. So the absolute points there, and you don't really want that. Well, you can have that if you have the same intensities for both X and Y, but if you don't, then you don't really want that. Scale down. We don't need this right now. Scale the intensity over the duration from full at the start to the quake to 0 upon finishing. Don't really care. Scale up though. Scale up could be something cool, but we don't really care about it right now. Wave. Now this can be really interesting, because we can create some sort of wave instead of shaking the screen, and I want to try that. So let's go here. Let's go back to Slade. Quick wave. Quick wave. Whoa. Finally. Here we go. We're going back here. Require scale up or scale down. Don't really care. Don't really care. These could be nice, but don't really care about it. Makes the screen shake of the earthquake also fall off based on how far the player is. But, you know, the quake is starting from the player itself, from the target itself, so we're not actually getting away from the quake, you know. Ground only. It will only affect the player of the target if he is on the ground. But I don't want that, because this is not a real earthquake thing, it's Psyonic Attack. So even if the player is flying, I want the screen to fucking around. Affect actors, of course. But this can be interesting and you can use that, but I prefer to just place the 0 to damage radius and then 0 to the damage itself, and we are done. But you can just use this flag which said the damage red property will also be able to harm and throw around non-players act. Oh no, wait. This is the flag that I was talking about. This is another thing. The damage property will be able to harm and throw around non-player actors, which is really interesting. Because if you want the Banshee to, if you want an earthquake, not the Banshee actually, to deal damage to anything, you should use this flag. I don't really care about it now. Shake only. So basically we'll use the damage radius property just to throw around the player and the actors, like I said before. So to throw around, to move the guys around without harming them. So the damage will be 0 with this. But I don't really want the players, etc. to move around. Or do I? Nah, not now. Damage fall off, again, don't really care about the fall off. Now we're going back to the multi-wave. The multi properties here. So, what does this do again? Can I please just press the right buttons? Thank you. If you have QF wave, then specifies the number of waves per second the wave Quake goes through while active. Default is 1. So meaning I'm going with 1 wave, following this sort of sinus or cosinus, sinus wave thing. So you know that I'm going, like, for example, using the X thing, and the camera will go forward and then going backwards again. You know, something like that. But this is one only wave. So if you are setting this to 1, and we have a duration of about 2 seconds, we're going to have 2 waves. So yeah, 1. We are going for 1 even here and 1 even here. Or maybe we can just fuck this around and, for example, set this by 0.5 and 0.5, for example. Then, fall off, I don't care about the fall off. I don't really care about the fall off, so it will be 0, 0. You can even, you know, if I don't need these arguments, I can just leave them like that, because they are already defined in the default function, so I don't need that. What I want, though, is the roll intensity, which is the little argument after these two. After these two. And you can use this trick for every function that you need. If you, for example, don't really need the first arguments, because they are already defined into the default function, you can just skip them all and just go for the arguments that you need. In this case, roll intensity, which is a double, and I just want this to be pretty wide. You know what, I just don't want this to be too much. Just the one to, you know, check this out. Or maybe I can even do something odd. Like, for example, changing this up so you can see all of the weirdness happening. Now, roll intensity, we are gone. Roll wave. Again, remember though, if you're specifying an argument at some point, you will need to specify all the arguments later on. So roll wave, I just want the roll to be complete. Damage multiplier, I don't need damage, so we're going with damage 0, which is the last argument over there. Here we go. Now we are quaking our target here. And we're done. We don't need to do anything else. If you just want to mess around with the player thing. One thing that you can do, of course, is to set up a damage over here. The thing is, you cannot define any other type. You cannot define anything else about the damage. It's just a normal damage deal by the Quake. So it's, if I remember correctly, there's a damage type specifically for the Quake in GZ Doom. So we'll deal that type of damage. But we don't want that. We don't want it, and so we are going to directly damage the target. Can I please write for once target correctly? Okay. Damage the target on our own. So damage. Up. BJ. It's a virtual function, and you can use that to damage anything you want from anywhere. This will directly damage the target whenever it is. So if I, for example, if I don't have these checks here, the target will get damage anyway, anywhere. Doesn't care about anything if there's line of sight or anything else. This is literally, I'm literally damaging the thing that's calling the function, you know, which is pretty awesome. So, first arguments, the inflictor. Inflictor is, for example, the missile or the poof for its scan attack. That's directly inflicting the damage. In my case, I don't have that. This is no missile. This is directly the Banshee that's dealing the thing. So it's real self. Source. It's the shooter. In this case, self again. Self. Self, it's a pointer to the monster calling the stuff. So, pretty easy. Damage. I don't want this to be too much of a burden. So, not more. Mode. We can go with something, whatever you want. For example, I can go with the electric. If I remember correctly, this is actually already defined damage type. Now, damage types. If you write damage types in here, you can go. If you damage types. Here you go. And you can go to this page here. Here we go, predefined damage types, and you will have all the predefined damage types in ZSCRIPT. So we have all of this funny stuff, and I just want electric. Yeah, that's right. Automatically used by missiles in here, inheriting from lightning, centers are vulnerable to it. Easy stuff. Remember though, damage types don't have any sort of hidden properties. I'm dealing electric damage doesn't mean that the monster will enter some sort of specific state or will deal some weird quirk around here. You can just use this to specify, for example, specific state if you want, but won't do anything really. Flags. I still don't remember the flags for this, so we're going here, damage mob J. Here you go. Now, oh, don't care. This is, of course, important. You cannot use this function on targets that are not shootable. Again, for any attack to work, the thing to be attacked needs to be shootable. That's simple as that. Anyhow, we can have this attack to, for example, ignore armor, ignore the damage factor, whatever you want, force the damage, etc, etc. In my case, I want the damage to be trustless, so it won't apply any kickback. Otherwise, it will move the things around, but it doesn't make any real sense if you are just, messing around with some sort of a psychic attack at the brain. So we can just go with that. Here you go. And then the double angle. Don't really care about it because it's trustless, so we won't even bother using that. And here we go. Simple as that. Now, our Banshee will do this stuff. Now we can even specify, for example, arguments for the function. In this case, would be cool to define some sort of, for example, we can define the damage, in this case, so int damage, let's go with damage, so we can define the damage here, and set it to be default to equal to, for example. This way, if you get to your function here, you will see you will have an argument which is damage and which its default it's 2, and you can then define, for example, to be 20 to deal a lot of damage. Now though, you might have noticed that I'm basically calling this function once and then going to the C state. We don't really want that. Otherwise, all of these weird stuff will be called once and that's done. The Quake will do this stuff for 2 seconds, I will deal for just once 2 of damage, and that's it. But I don't really want that. I want this function to be continuous, I want these melting, waving effect on the player to be continuous. Until, for example, the player just get out of sight or attack the thing. So, to do that, we need to do some weird stuff. We need, for example, to separate these two missile states. Missile, for example, you can just call these psych. We had the face target, doing the fire stuff. Then we go in here, and we can go, for example, with, I don't know. For example, we can, let me think about it. Go for any second, I will deal this amount of damage. Any second is a bit too much, though. Right? Yeah, it's a bit too much. So let me think. I will go directly with what I did with the Flash Wizard in there. So for this, I will go with loop. Here you go. This way, when the Banshee enters the missile state, we'll face the target, and then all of a sudden, she will just enter this psych state and will loop until it's no more valuable. It's not valuable. It's not more the right thing to do in this case, and we return the C state. But another thing that needs to be done in this case is to first save. Is to I can't remember what I was doing there. Whatever. Let me see. Do I need to do anything else in here? Don't think so. We already have all of the stuff that I want. And we are basically dealing a lot of damage, which is good. And that's it. Let's test this out, shall we? So, before testing this out, let me just remove some weird thing. For example, I don't want the teleport to happen right now. So we're going like this. Heal. No, it's not an archvile. Here we go. And for now, I will go with speed 0. Here we go. We'll even remove this invulnerable stuff, because I don't need that. And off we go. We should be ready to go right now. I set the speed 0 because I don't want the Banshee to move right now, so everything's fine. And let's go. Let's test this out. Let's see if I did the right things. There you go. We are going to no clip our way through and kill monsters. Voila. So we can go in here. Jesus, the sound. There you go. There you go, much better. Summon Banshee. Yeah, nice. Something is super odd in here. I don't know what's going on, but I'm not getting the damage, so this is funny as fuck. Let's see what's going on here. Don't worry, this stuff happens all the time. Okay, maybe it's cause of this thing. Most likely it's cause of this thing. Let's see. Means that this is working. Let's just check this out. So, to check this out, let's go with log. Slowpoke. Here we go. Let's test this out now. Stupid me. I didn't think about the fact that the player doesn't really have a speed, so we return, I believe in this case, a 0. Banshee. Slowpoke. Exactly. Yeah. I'm directly entering that stuff in there. Slowpoke. Yeah, of course. Oh, fucking stupid. Anyhow, let's get out of here. Let's move it. You can see that now this is working, you know. So you get the thing that I wanted to show you. Now let's go in here and let's see what is going on. Remember one thing now. Now I remember what I was trying to do. We have a Quake that will last 2 seconds, but we are calling the function every 10 ticks, which is 1/7 of the duration. And every time you call the Quake function, you will reset. So expect some weird stuff to happen. After that, we'll see how to implement the thing to be organic. Summon Banshee. Here you go. Here you go. Give me some stuff. This is exactly what I was expecting. The Quake is just resetting every time she's shooting, and so you won't complete the thing. If I get out of the sight, as you can see, the Quake could be completed, and so it stopped doing the thing. But then again, la la la, I'm just here. Ah, help me, help me. Yeah, super cool, huh? Anyhow, let's get out of here and let's see how to quickly get something cool. To do that, we need to make ourselves a custom integer, in this case, custom variable, which we'll be calling QK, which is for Quake. Okay, here you go. And now you go with the frequency. Now, we just want to call the Quake every 2 seconds, because we just want the Quake to have this sinus thing, you know? We just want the Quake to be natural, not natural, like some sort of continuous instead of quirky, going sloppy like that before. So we need to call this function every 2 seconds. How do we do that if you're calling a function every 10 ticks? Well, this is a quick fix, but this is kinda awful, because in 2 seconds, considering the speed of the players, you can, you know, a lot of stuff can be changed in 2 seconds. I don't really want that, especially because I want the damage to be constant, instead of, for example, dealing 30 points of damage every 2 seconds, because it feels pretty unfair if you want to. You know, can be pretty a lot of damage. While if you have some constant low damage, the player can move around, hide, etc. Gives them more of an opportunity for the player to do stuff. So, to do that, we need to add a check. A little check here. So we're going with if. We are going for get age. No, get age. What the fuck am I just saying? If let me think. Yeah, we're going with that. We made our variable there. So if the variable is basically dividable by, in this case, 7. So if this variable here divided by, if I divide this variable by 7 and it returns I don't know how to explain the modulo operator, for fuck's sake, but it's simple as that. Basically, if this is a multiple of 7, then call the function here. Here you go. It was easier than I thought. Which means, if I do something like that, at the end of the function, freq plus plus, it means that every, and bear with me here, every 10 ticks, I will increase this variable value by 1, meaning that in 70 ticks, basically calling this function 7 times, because 7 multiplied by 10 is 70, then this variable will be 7. So 7 is a multiple of 7, and the function will be called again. Nice, huh? Really, really nice. Now, to make this a more, how can I say that? To make this more worldwide usable, I don't think this makes any sense what I said, but whatever. We can, for example, add some more arguments here. Because, for example, if you just want, for example, to reduce the frequency, so for example, if you want this to be slower, you can, for example, you want to increase the ticks here, then you will need to reset all of the stuff here, check for the duration of this if you want to change, and check for this if you want to change, because now this doesn't work anymore, of course, because it will be called every 140 ticks, and so the Quake will be already gone by the time it reaches 7, and blah 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 blah. So, if you want to change this stuff in here, you will need the function to be more modifiable. And to do that, we are going to add a kind of more, some more arguments. In this case, frequency, which is another variable here. In this case will be frequency of the wave of the of the Quake. In this case, now I was thinking about I could go directly for the ticks or for a value like this, for example, but this is not really ideal in my opinion. I will go for the ticks. In this case, I'll go with this frequency. So we have our default value, which is 70, and here, instead of using 7, which is an arbitrary chosen thing, we can just go, for example, with these. We go with frequency divided by ticks. What is ticks now? I'm glad you asked. Well, ticks is just the ticks you're choosing to put in here. Quite cool, huh? Yeah, pretty neat. This case, if you increase the ticks, this will be 20, and this will be frequency again, so 70 in this case, unless you change it in the function again, so perfectly customizable. 70 divided by 20. Easy, no? Easy. In my case, 10, and here we go. But yeah, I believe this is the best way to do that. Because, for example, if you want to do the stuff like I was saying before, so having this to be 7, I should multiply these, so the frequency, by the number of ticks to obtain the duration of the Quake. But if you want the Quake to last more, you will need to change the ticks. But if you want to do that, this is the way. Now, to make this a bit more efficient, since we are talking about integers will just get, we won't get any decimal number here. What does it mean is that if we increase, like I said before, the ticks to 20, we have 70 divided by 20, which is 3.5. 3.5, it's not an integer number, and will be reduced to 3. So anytime the frequency is basically a multiple of 3, it will go out, which is not really perfect, So to do that, we are going with round, which is a little function that will, round things up, round, and we'll get this thing. I'll go with another integer, int ft equal to round. There you go. And we'll go with ft. Here you go. Now it's a bit better, because if you have some sort of, like, for example, 3.9 will still return 3, but in this case it will return 4, so it will just slightly better. If you want to do things even better, though, you can just tweak things around even more, but for now we are going with that. So, since everything seems to be okay, you can even change, the damage output. If you want the damage to be, how can I say that? If you want the damage to How can I say that? To deal more damage, you can even add, for example, an attack rate. In this case, int attack rate. Let's go with rate. For example, if you don't want the damage to be dealt every 10 ticks, you can increase that and go with then if. In this case, still we're using the frequency, the variable that we're using for the thing, divided by rate is equal to 0. Then do the attack thing. There you go. Attack rate, which can be simple, for example, like 2. So it will basically deal damage every 2 ticks, 20 ticks in this case. You know. Now, one thing that we can do in this case is to reduce this stuff. And in this case, we have frequency, which will increase every X amount of times, and whatnot. Now, you might notice that we're never resetting this integer, because every time the function gets called, this is increasing. But if the function, if the monster stop the attack, the frequency variable will still remain the same, and we don't really want that. So we need to reset the thing. To reset the thing, just we go with here equals 0. Here you go. Resetting the stuff equals 0. Here you go. Save, save, and we're done. Let's test this out. And here we go. I don't even want to go there. Just will spawn the Banshee in here. Banshee. Let's see. Whoa, 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 whoa. As you can see now, the Quake is not stopped midway. I'm going... It's solid. It's really solid. The damage is going nice, and I'm invincible, and I can just move around like that. Weehoo, weehoo. Now, if I shoot her, and she enters the pain state, please enter the pain state. Here we go. The Quake will stop. And then we start again. Yoo-hoo! And that's it. And that's it. We can even, for example, add another thing in here. As you notice, though, I just want to point this out. I'm just moving the camera of the player. The player is not really moving. For example, here, it looks like I'm going out of the map, but it's not. I'm still in here. It's just the camera. This is the cool thing. The player is not actually moving, it's just messing around with the perspective. That's super cool. Remember though that this won't work, of course, on monsters. Yeah. Unless, like I said before, you want the Quake to move, to actually move around the monsters. Then it can be done. It can be done, and I don't want to do that, actually. It's a really annoying thing. Anyhow, this is how you make these kind of things. This kind of weird stuff in here. You can even add some weird stuff and whatever the fuck you want. But this is, for example, a nice real function to make a psionic thing. Now, I'm going to go. Nice. I want to show you how I made my Flash Wizard here. Because the Flash Wizard is a bit more complicated. If you can see, the melting function is a bit more hard to read. Because I'm going with a lot of stuff. In this case, I have my brain med function. I will have a minimum radius, meaning that if, like I said before, for example, no, I didn't say that. Whatever. If the player or the target is too close, then abort the thing and stop melting the brain of the player. If it's too far away with the max radius, then again abort. Then I have, for example, the poof of the how can I say that? The sparkles that the attack will emit. I'm just spawning this little sparkle, which are these actor in here. You can add any actor that you want to spawn anytime you want, again with the same trick that I used before, so using this little variable here, which can be used anywhere in the actor if you define that outside of functions and states, and comparing it to the attack rate, which is another argument of the function. In my case, attack rate equals 2, the lower the faster the attack rate, of course, meaning that every x ticks, which again depends on the ticks in here, this brain attack state, it will be called and spawn the little sparkles in there. I forgot to mention that I modified the function and the Flash Wizard a bit more after I released the video, so it's a bit different, but who cares. And again, I'm also adding the damage in here only when the melting, so the variable, has reached a certain point, because it won't start the damage until, in this case, the quake has reached full intensity. Because what I'm doing here is a little quick, a little smart way to make the earthquake, so the camera moving, a bit more smooth, meaning that it will start slow and then it will reach a certain, let's say, a high point, a maximum wave length. Doesn't make sense what I'm saying. Anyhow, it will start slow and then it will raise up the not the frequency, but the amplitude of the waving. How did I do that? Not really simple. It's a bit annoying to do that, but whatever. Basically, if the function, the variable is 0 or it's non-existent in this case, because in this scenario here it's not really defined that it's not equal to 0, it's not defined, and I want the function to start immediately. So if it's 0, so if the monster is starting the attack, the first quake that will be called will be a scale-up wave, meaning that it will start from 0 and it will raise up into the span of this time here, which is the wave frequency multiplied by the ticks. In this case, I went for the thing that I said I didn't want to go through before. So in this case, the duration of the stupid earthquake will be equal to the wave frequency, which is a variable here, in this case 7, like I said before, multiplied by the ticks. So you change the ticks, you need to change this too, if you want the quake to remain constant, for example at 2 seconds or whatever. Anyhow, we'll raise up the amplitude of the wave from 0 to this maximum here in a span of 70 ticks, so 2 seconds. After that, because it's only after that, because we have in an if and else statement, so an if and else check in here. So if the melting is equal to 0 or non-existent, so at the start, do this. If it's not the start, so if it's not equal to 0, then check if it's a multiple of wave freak. In this case it's 7. If it's a multiple of 7, then start with this other quake. If everything goes right, you know that this variable will reach a value of 7 just after 70 ticks. If you have, the attack be called every 10 ticks. Pretty easy. And so in this case, I forgot to do this stuff. Sorry. Here we go. Save. And so if this a multiple of the frequency that you want to be set, you will start the other quake. And this quake is exactly the same as this one, but it won't have the scale up. It will be full scaled, of course. Of course it will be full scaled. Now, If you want to do things really nice, you can even have a scaled down Quake. You know, you can have to smooth out slowly, and we can. In this case, we just need to call for the Quake, exactly the same, but into here, for example. In this case, here, scale up, nope, scale down, and even here, scale down. Here you go. Meaning that if the attacker exit this attack function, it will again start this function here and scaling down the Quake. The only problem with this stuff in here is that, again, I don't have a way to check if the Quake is stopping to start. If the Quake is stopping, if the Quake has already done the proper waves and starting this one over here, meaning that when the monster stop the attack, it will directly override this Quake here, resulting in that tilting in the screen without the smoothness, and I don't really want that. I'm fine with having the Quake to just stop pretty harshly instead of having to be smoothed out. And that's it. Now we have a lot of weird stuff in here. I don't just have the Quake and the melting screen, etc. I also have quite some quickery. So we have also some sounds. We have another cool stuff in here, where I'm basically turning the screen of the player black slowly. The more the player is under attack, the more the screen will turn black, basically giving us some sort of blindness, debuff, some sort of that. And also I made this function here to help me with this, with the aborting of the function, because otherwise I would need to call off this stuff in every single thing in here. Because, I need to reset the blending, stop the sounds, otherwise, if the monster stops the attack, the sounds won't stop, and even the screen will remain black. Don't really want that. In this case, let's just test this out to see the differences in here. And what the fuck is going on here? Am I missing a parenthesis, perhaps? 1, 2, of course I'm missing a parenthesis. I'm always missing parentheses. For fuck's sake, I hate this stuff. For real. And should be working right now. The abort state is there. Do I have the abort state? Yes, of course. And let's go. Yeah, there are a lot of stuff in here.
2,000 years later.
Here you go. I'm sorry about that. Now so you can even see how things works. Yeah, really bad. Here you go.
No! God, please, no!
Things, lights, items. Here we go. Save. Will I be able to show you the fucking flash wizard? Jesus Christ. Finally. Now, let's summon the guy here. Summon liquefying. Here you go. And here you go. Starting slowly, and then we're going through the thing. As you can see, the screen is turning black slowly. Of course, it won't turn 100% black, but here you go. Just hiding will turn the tide. And we're back here. If I get too close, we'll stop. And everything's working fine. The weird over-the-top stuff is all due to the fact that this guy is turning immortal when he becomes invisible and all of this kind of stuff. So I will need to reset the invisibility of the guy and all of this weird thing. But that's it. I hope this little tutorial will aid you in your creations, etc. And I hope you will create a lot of new nice stuff out there, because we need more new stuff instead of the usual stuff. I'm for the news instead of the reuse of already existing stuff, etc. But for now, it's over. Ouch, motherfuckers. Get the fuck away from me. And that's it. It has been a really long story, but nice. I will of course release, leave the Banshee, the new Banshee, the interesting Banshee file into the description of the video, and that's it. This is not for sale, not for sale, not for download right now of this modification that I'm doing here, but one day they will be. One day they will be. Yeah, one day when I want to be able to breathe, probably. Anyhow, we'll see you again. Bye.
I just want to say that I'm a huge fan.